Desantis new Maga, make America glitchy again. Trump apprentice attracts largest internet chatroom ever. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced his campaign for president Wednesday night on Twitter in a bubble bath of warm questions and surrounded by friends. There was no video feed of the Twitter Spaces chatroom, but one could imagine the glow of so many scented candles flickering around the sudsy tub. Maybe even a rubber ducky. And some rose petals on the floor. The safe space was provided by Elon Musk, who owns Twitter. Mr. Musk was joined by fellow African-American David Sachs, both men were born in South Africa, in asking gauzy, softball questions that were nestled in Easter baskets of compliments and mutual admiration. Mr. Musk, who drastically overpaid for Twitter, said free speech is priceless and said he wants politicians like Mr. DeSantis to feel welcome on his platform to speak directly to voters and, more importantly, interact with them. It's not just canned speeches and teleprompters, Mr. Musk said before introducing Mr. DeSantis, who promptly delivered a canned speech. No teleprompter was needed since there was no video feed. But who knows? Maybe there was a teleprompter. "I'm running for president to lead our great American comeback," Mr. DeSantis began, sounding strikingly similar to someone else. He concluded his canned speech by reading the fine print about where to donate to his campaign. Then the floor was open to friendly questions. Mr. Sachs began his first question by explaining how super cool Twitter Spaces is and celebrating how nobody has ever used Twitter Spaces to launch a presidential campaign before and how so many people were trying to get into the virtual event that it crashed the system for 25 minutes. Mr. DeSantis' campaign launch on Twitter Spaces was so popular that it broke the internet, they said. Mr. Sachs later compared the Florida governor to a Kardashian. Once the Twitter geniuses worked out all the kinks in Twitter Spaces, Mr. Sachs got down to grilling Mr. DeSantis. "What made you want to kind of take the chance to do it this way?" he asked. Mr. DeSantis explained that he is basically a fearless pioneer always willing to make hard choices and cut against the grain and embrace the future and do what he thinks is right even if it's never been done before. Mr. DeSantis learned these lessons in fearlessness while being a brave pioneer as governor of Florida during the COVID lockdowns. Mr. Sachs then pivoted to the no shortage of hit pieces on Mr. DeSantis and asked him how great Florida really is under his leadership. "Full disclosure, I like Mr. DeSantis very much and believe that one day he will make a very fine president. But at this point in the chatroom I was so bored by the soft questions that I tuned out and went upstairs to draw myself a warm bubble bath. When I came back downstairs to the Twitter Spaces Geek Fest, Mr. DeSantis was still fielding friendly questions from campaign cheerleaders. At one point, Representative Thomas Massie, the Kentucky Republican who is one of the finest members of Congress, turned into a fainting fanboy. He gushed over how much he loves Elon Musk and squealed that he was the first member of Congress to own a Tesla. Mr. DeSantis became so aroused by the sidebar of admiration for someone else that he interjected to confirm that he had indeed seen Mr. Massey's Tesla and even remembered Mr. Massey's license plate. They went from breaking the internet to putting the internet to sleep. It went on for over an hour as Mr. DeSantis told the group of admirers how great he really was. It was all so, well, sanctimonious. The great thing about Mr. DeSantis is that he is mini Maga, the one true apprentice of the ultra Maga king. That's also his biggest problem. Why go with the apprentice when the master is still available? Mr. DeSantis even channeled Donald Trump when he later boasted about his crowd size. "We had a Yuga audience," Mr. DeSantis said, only he pronounced Yuga with an H. It was the biggest they ever had. It did break Twitter Space. We're really excited about the enthusiasm. All a decent person could think was, get a room. But then you remembered. They already had a room. On Twitter. Desantis new Maga, make America glitchy again. Trump apprentice attracts largest internet chatroom ever. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced his campaign for president Wednesday night on Twitter in a bubble bath of warm questions and surrounded by friends. There was no video feed of the Twitter Spaces chatroom, but one could imagine the glow of so many scented candles flickering around the sudsy tub. Maybe even a rubber ducky. Tim Scott is up to the 2024 presidential primary challenge. In a dark and angry era, can he persuade American voters to embrace optimism? Senator Tim Scott can move a crowd. I've seen it more than once. The first time was in May 2021, when Mr. Scott, who announced he is running for the GOP presidential nomination Monday, appeared at a donor appreciation conference for a Republican voter registration effort I helped organize in Texas. He was interviewed for 45 minutes by then-Rep. Kevin Brady. After a few dry minutes discussing the 2017 tax reform the two worked on, Mr. Brady shifted gears, telling Mr. Scott he wanted the audience to know the South Carolinian's personal story as well as he did. Mr. Brady then asked the only black Republican senator when he first realized someone hated him because of his skin color. The next 40 minutes saw a riveting exploration of Mr. Scott's life. The son of a single mom, he grew up in his grandparents' 700-square-foot rental house. Knowing discrimination from a young age, he became a disillusioned, angry teenager. He was saved by his faith and a mentor, the owner of the Chick-fil-A where he worked. There he learned the dignity of work, the importance of personal responsibility, and the choice he had to make between becoming bitter over what life had dealt him or striving to become better. He talked about being a Christian in a way that was sincere and humble, not showy or presumptuous. As the interview proceeded, the crowd fell silent, every eye drawn to the stage. No one left or looked at a phone. When it was finished, the audience responded with a level of emotion I've rarely seen in politics. Mr. Brady told me the interview's power came not from Mr. Scott talking about being given the American dream, but because it became clear that through struggle, hard work and love, he had achieved it. This led to a return visit by Mr. Scott to this past February's voter registration conference. A fellow senator, John Cornyn from Texas, did the interview, with the two focusing on the GOP's challenges with a changing electorate. Mr. Scott became so energized that at one point he stood up, walked off the stage and weaved his way through the crowded tables, mic in hand, preaching about the need for outreach, arguing that conservative values can find receptive hearts and minds among the young, people of color, and anyone striving to rise in life. He called on Republicans to offer a confident, optimistic agenda in which every American has a place. His walk through the hall was met with applause, laughter, head nodding and more than a few amens. Further evidence of Mr. Scott's ability to connect with voters was his reply to President Biden's address to a joint session of Congress, which new presidents traditionally deliver in lieu of a State of the Union address, in April 2021. Giving the opposition party's response is usually the worst assignment in politics. A nervous, ill-prepared backbencher responding to the president within minutes generally results in an awkward speech that pales in significance to the majesty of a long-planned presidential address.